You know, there are rags to riches stories, but few this intense. A young man at the lowest point of his life, rejected by his parents, living on the streets begging for booze money, turns his life around and creates one of the most successful Canadian brands ever, Second Cup. But the story doesn't end there. For Frank O'Day, it was the toughest first step in a big life that has now helped millions of other Canadians. In his autobiography, Frank O'Day opens up about the sexual abuse from priests he suffered and his descent into alcoholism as a young man. It all changed for Frank when he heard a self-help radio ad with the tagline, "If you have a problem with alcohol, call us." Those words were a moment of clarity. Frank bought a suit and tie and sobered up. In 1975, he and a business partner opened up a coffee shop in a Toronto suburb called Second Cup. His business partner eventually bought him out, making Frank a multi-millionaire. But he didn't stop there. He went on to create Street Kids International, the Canadian Landmine Foundation, and War Child Canada, making it his life's business to help others. He's an accomplished motivational speaker, and in 2004 was presented the Order of Canada.
Don't tell me you can't change the world. Don't tell me you can't make a difference. You can change the world. Hope, vision, action.
And Frank O'Day is with us now. You know, it seems to me that in some cases when people get wealthy, they get hooked on it. They need to get wealthier. It seems to feed them in that way. But that wasn't the case for you. Almost as soon as you were wealthy, you cashed out. How did you know you were rich enough?
Oh, it's not about being rich. It's about what's the next thing in my life? What's the most important thing to me right now? And I've always found that as I meet people and exchange ideas, something speaks to my heart, and then I want to go and do that, and that's what I do. So whether it's in the not-for-profit sector, which I've learned a great deal from, or in the business sector, I like to interact with folks and then find a new idea. I like new, big ideas, and that's what it's at. And so with the Second Cup or with ProShred, they'd been done. I did them for 10 years, made some money, now move on, I got to do something else.
You find it easy to let go of stuff?
Actually, I do, yeah. There is some sort of time where it's a little difficult, but then it's gone. And I'm very proud of those things. I mean, every not-for-profit I started still exists, in spite of the fact I'm no longer with it. So that means that the idea was more important than the person. The businesses still exist, so the idea was more important than the person. So it's about doing something. I mean, all of us have a universal or a common mission, and that is to leave this place a little better than we found it. And so everything I touch, I try to do that.
It's interesting, though. I mean, some wealthy people, they focus on one thing, right? But you seem to get involved in social enterprise a lot, and you have one right now that you're doing in Ottawa called the Young Professionals in Training. Yeah. So you're not giving your money away, you're building a business. So what's the business case for that one?
Yeah, it's called YPIT, Young Professionals in Training, or in IT. And the idea really comes from the 4 million kids that we have at high school and universities in this country who are the first generation that are computer natives, as opposed to me, who's always going to be an immigrant.
Right, digital natives.
Yeah, absolutely. Understand it. And so every talent and ability around computerization lives among these 4 million kids and students. And it seemed to me that why don't we outsource to our own kids rather than outsourcing to the third world or someplace like that? We have the kids, we have the talent.
So what do they do?
So we do any kind of digitization, but the neat thing is the model. We pay the minimum wage plus $2 an hour. The $2 an hour goes in a savings account. So they come out of high school, they got money for college, or if they're in college, they got money for tuition for next year.
So you have all these businesses that have all of this paper around.
Yes.
And you're saying basically, okay, we have this army of kids who need part-time work or need work or whatever.
Absolutely.
They digitize the documents.
Absolutely.
And then you put $2 in the bank for them.
Exactly.
Have you had somebody graduate yet?
No, I like to say we're 6 minutes old. We just started.
All right, so it's just an idea.
Well, no, the first year we had to get all the patents in place, which we did. We got the patents in place for this model. We got a patent in place for fragmenting documents. So we can do medical documents because when they put them into the cloud, we fragment them.
Yeah.
So privacy is assured.
Well,
and we got kids all across the country that can work on the same document.
Entrepreneurship is about solving a problem. That's a big problem of our time. Absolutely. But the thing that's interesting about you is like you have that. You were interested in a landmine. You were dealing with AIDS. You were dealing with environmental issues. You were dealing with street kids. I can't detect a pattern in your interest in your philanthropy. What is it?
Big ideas. Kevin, I like a big idea. I like an idea that is going to change the world if I can. So we were the first guys to put a cup of coffee in a gourmet coffee store, and out of that became a multi-billion-dollar industry. We were the first guys to put a shredder on a truck, a ProShred, changed that world. This with landmines, we were the first guys to think about Night of 1,000 Dinners, where we had dinners all over the world on the same night, raising $2.5 million. I like big ideas.
And you like impact, obviously. You like to be able to touch it. Is some of that survivor's guilt? Because I raise that because you've had such a tortured early life, and you gave back very quickly at the point when you became wealthy. Was some of it looking around you and feeling, I'm not really truly comfortable in this skin, I need to somehow shed it every now and again?
It's an interesting question. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, but Kevin, my dad was the same way. My dad was always giving back and always trying to do something. So I think it was the values of the things that I was taught as a kid, the values I learned as a kid, they actually saved my life. So I sort of emulate a lot of the things my dad did. And
well, you had a bit of a like this with your dad too.
Absolutely.
He wasn't very proud of you in your early life.
No,
is some of that trying to make it up to your own old man?
It's an interesting question too. I don't think so. I mean, my dad, when I told him I had been sexually abused, walked out of the room. Couldn't cope with it. My alcoholism went through the roof. I ended up on the street. I ended up panhandling for nickels and dimes. But when the Governor General gave me my Order of Canada, there's a private dinner, as I'm sure you're aware, just for spouses that night. And she turned to me, it was Adrian at the time, and she said, "Now, Frank, I'm going to ask you and 2 others to get up and speak about the person who was the most important person in your life." Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, and the Governor General's out here, the Rolodex is going on, who. And I got up and talked about my dad. I talked about the values I learned as a kid. And yeah, he wasn't the best dad in the world, perhaps, but he was the best dad for me. Because when I was on the street and I was in the last moments and I didn't know whether I was die or change, the values that I learned as a kid came back, and I decided to pick up the phone and make a change.
Wow. That's a story that you tell to many, many people in business and in life now. But when I look at your life, I mean, if you look at the breadth of it, you talked about the sexual abuse that you suffered as a boy and a young man, your alcoholism, getting over your alcoholism, being into debt, I think, up to your neck by the time you were 34. Absolutely. By 35, you're a millionaire, you're giving back, you're doing mentorship. What aspect of the human experience have you not had that as you look at the days that you have remaining, you still desire?
What's on my bucket list?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure what's on my bucket list. You know,
not a bucket list of things to check, but you've experienced so much.
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting for the next idea. I love this YIPIT. I think that's going to make a huge difference in kids' lives. We're building houses in Brazil. I've got 1,100 houses to build. They're all affordable houses. We're changing the way people build houses in Brazil.
Would you ever get in an inner tube and float down the Grand River with a sack of beer behind you?
Yeah, but what would you do next week?
That's a big life. Frank O'Day, thanks very much.
Thanks very
Pleasure
much.
to talk.